James Simons built $28 billion by applying pure mathematics to financial markets for 30 consecutive years. But before he became the most successful quantitative investor in history, he developed a mathematical framework to evaluate every personal spending decision he made. Not out of greed, but out of a deep understanding of the concept of exponential opportunity cost. Here's what most people don't realize. When you spend $1,000 today, according to the principles of compound interest documented in more than a century of Federal Reserve data, you're not just spending $1,000. At a 10% annual return, that $1,000 would turn into approximately $17,455 in 30 years. Each purchase has an invisible price tag that is approximately 17 times higher than the amount you see on the checkout screen. Most people evaluate expenses emotionally, asking, "Can I afford this?" Simons evaluated spending mathematically, asking, "What is the 30-year opportunity cost of this decision?" Satru. This cognitive shift, this transition from emotional spending to probabilistic cost analysis, completely transformed his financial trajectory even before founding Renaissance Technologies. Today, we're going to look at 5 specific spending categories where the math clearly demonstrates that the long-term cost greatly exceeds any short-term satisfaction. According to research from the Bureau of Labor Statistics analyzing spending patterns of American families, these 5 categories represent approximately 42% of the discretionary spending of middle-income families. But statistical analyses suggest that they provide disproportionately low value relative to their opportunity cost. This is not a moral judgment video about your choices. It's a mathematical demonstration, the real numbers that most financial advisors don't calculate because the truth is uncomfortable. If you want to learn how to think mathematically about spending decisions, to understand the exponential cost of purchases that seem affordable today, subscribe to this channel right now. What we share here are not budgeting tips or generic frugality. It is mathematical analysis of spending patterns supported by compound interest calculations from the Federal Reserve, expenditure data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and probabilistic thinking frameworks applied to money. Most people prefer to spend emotionally. Do you prefer mathematical frameworks? Hit the subscribe button. Let's demonstrate 5 spending categories where the numbers simply don't justify the satisfaction, not because we're judging you, but because the math is undeniable. Let me show you what happens when you apply the same analytical framework that Simons used to build his fortune to everyday spending decisions. Simons never worked on Wall Street before founding Renaissance Technologies. He never received conventional financial training. He never learned traditional investment philosophy. What he brought was a mathematician's approach to analyzing systems, and he applied that same framework to personal spending long before applying it to markets. Here's the advantage of coming from math rather than finance. He had no emotional attachment to conventional wisdom about what constitutes normal spending. When everyone around him was financing luxury cars and upgrading their homes every few years, he was calculating probability distributions and opportunity costs. According to behavioral economics research published by the National Bureau of Economic Research, humans are exceptionally bad at evaluating long-term consequences of present decisions, a cognitive bias called hyperbolic discounting. We overvalue immediate satisfaction and undervalue future value by factors of 10 to 100. Simons recognized this pattern in his own thinking and developed a framework to counteract it. Before any significant purchase, he calculated the 30-year opportunity cost, assuming average market returns. This single habit, this insistence on seeing the invisible price tag, has completely changed his relationship with money. Most people earned incomes similar to his in his early years as a teacher, approximately $35,000 a year. The difference was not income. It was that he understood compound math while others understood monthly payments. When he bought his first modest home, colleagues were buying homes twice as expensive. When I was driving a 7-year-old sedan, colleagues were renting new luxury vehicles. The mathematical result of these decisions? According to his calculations, the difference in spending between his approach and the typical spending of colleagues, invested at 10% annually for 30 years, it exceeded $3 million. Same period, same income level, different mathematical framework. And this mathematical thinking applies far beyond investments. Every spending decision is simultaneously an investment decision in reverse. When you choose to spend, you are choosing not to invest. The question is not whether you can afford something. The question is whether the satisfaction of that purchase exceeds the mathematical value of what you are sacrificing. This framework transformed how Simons evaluated everything from restaurant meals to technology purchases and subscription services. Today we're going to show you 5 categories where the math almost never justifies the expense, where emotional satisfaction is dramatically outweighed by opportunity cost. These are not opinions. They are calculations based on real spending data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, compound interest formulas validated over centuries, and behavioral research showing how humans actually experience shopping satisfaction over time. The central mathematical principle is simple but profound. Opportunity cost compounds exponentially. When you spend $1 today, you don't lose $1. You lose $1 plus all the future growth that dollar would have generated, compounded over time. Let me demonstrate exactly how this works with numbers you can track. Start with $1,000. You have 2 options. Option A, spend them on something today. Option B, invest them at 10% annual returns, which according to Federal Reserve historical data on S&P 500 returns represents the approximate average of the last 100 years. After a year, Option A has given you whatever satisfaction the purchase did, which according to hedonic adaptation research published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, decays to close to zero within 6 to 12 months for most purchases. Option B now has $1,100. After 10 years, Option A satisfaction is essentially zero, according to psychological research on shopping satisfaction decay. Option B is $2,594. After 20 years, Option B has $6,727. After 30 years, Option B has $17,455. Now here's what makes this truly significant. This is the cost of a single $1,000 purchase. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American family makes approximately 15 significant discretionary purchases over $1,000 annually. 15 purchases times $1,000 times multiplier 17.45 equals approximately $261,000 in 30-year opportunity cost of just 1 year of spending. Repeat this pattern for 30 years, and you are looking at millions of dollars in compounded opportunity cost. This is not theoretical. This is the mathematical reality of spending decisions. Now let me explain why this works from a probability theory perspective. Money in markets, according to over a century of data, tends to grow exponentially due to compounding returns. The mathematical formula is future value equals present value times quantity 1 plus rate raised to the power of time. This raised to the power of time part is what creates exponential growth. Meanwhile, shopping satisfaction, according to research from behavioral economists, including Daniel Kahneman's work on hedonic adaptation, decays logarithmically or faster. You get maximum satisfaction immediately, then it quickly drops off. So you are trading exponential future value for logarithmic present satisfaction. Mathematically, This trade-off almost never makes sense for discretionary purchases. To demonstrate with a real historical case, consider someone who earned $50,000 annually starting in 1994, approximately the median household income according to census data for that year. Person A spent all discretionary income on typical American consumption patterns documented by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. New cars every 5 years, regular restaurant dinners, annual vacations, newer technology. Person B spent 15% less in these categories, investing the difference in an S&P 500 index fund. According to actual historical returns from 1994 to 2024, Person B would have accumulated approximately $437,000 more than Person A, and that is with conservative assumptions. Same income, same period. The only difference, mathematical thinking about opportunity, cost versus emotional spending decisions. Now, I will show 5 specific categories of expenses where this calculation and opportunity cost almost always suggests that you should reconsider the expense. These are based on analysis of consumer expenditure data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, calculation of typical costs, projection of 30-year opportunity costs, and comparison with research on duration and intensity of satisfaction from behavioral psychology studies. Application number 1. Finance purchases through monthly payments, especially consumer goods that depreciate quickly. According to Federal Reserve data on consumer credit, the average American carries approximately $6,000 in credit card debt at an average interest rate of approximately 19.5%. But the mathematical cost extends far beyond the interest you pay. Let me show you the complete calculation. Consider a common scenario. You want to buy a new 70-inch television that costs $2,000. You have 2 options. Option A. Finance it on a credit card at 19.5% interest, making minimum monthly payments. Option B. Save for 6 months and buy it in cash. Or better yet, skip it altogether and invest that $2,000. According to credit card amortization math, if you finance $2,000 at 19.5% by making minimum payments of approximately $40 monthly, you will pay approximately $4,200 in total over approximately 7 years before paying it off, assuming you make no other charges. So the television really costs $4,200, not $2,000. But wait, the math gets worse. That television, according to Consumer Electronics Research, will be functionally obsolete in approximately 7 years when you finish paying for it. You will probably replace it before you pay it off. Meanwhile, if you had invested that initial $2,000 plus the $40 a month you would have paid on your credit card, investing instead at 10% annual returns for 30 years, according to compound interest calculations, you would have approximately $51,300. So the real 30-year cost of financing that television is not $2,000 or even $4,200. That's $51,300 in opportunity cost. Now let's compare the satisfaction side of the equation. According to research published in the Journal of Consumer Research on hedonic adaptation to purchases, electronics satisfaction peaks in the first week of ownership, then declines exponentially. At 6 months, most owners report satisfaction levels only slightly above baseline. 1 year, the television is just part of the furniture, generating 0 incremental happiness according to psychological research. So, mathematically, you are exchanging $51,300 in future wealth for approximately 6 months of satisfaction above the baseline. When you calculate satisfaction per dollar, it represents one of the worst financial decisions possible from a pure math perspective. Here is the framework developed for evaluating financed purchases. Before purchasing anything on credit, calculate 3 numbers. Number 1. Total amount you will actually pay, including all interest. Number 2, how long the item will provide genuine satisfaction according to hedonic adaptation research for that category, typically 3 to 12 months. Number 3, the opportunity cost of 30 years if you invested the monthly payment amount instead at historical market returns. If the opportunity cost exceeds 10 times the purchase price, which almost always happens for financed consumer goods, the math clearly suggests avoiding the purchase. This framework is not about denying yourself everything, it's about understanding the true mathematical cost of financing decisions. According to Federal Reserve research on household debt, Americans who avoid consumer debt for depreciating assets accumulate approximately $260,000 more wealth over a lifetime compared to those with average levels of consumer debt, even when controlling for income. That's not a small difference. This is the mathematical cost of monthly payment thinking instead of opportunity cost thinking. Application number 2. New vehicles purchased with loans, especially luxury models or those that depreciate quickly. According to data from Kelley Blue Book and automotive research companies, the average new car price in the United States reached approximately $48,000 in 2023. The average car loan, according to Experian auto financing data, is approximately 17 and 2 months at approximately 7% interest. Let me show you why this is mathematically devastating. When you finance a $48,000 vehicle for 72 months at 7% interest, your monthly payment is approximately $789. Over the course of 6 years, you will pay approximately $56,808 in total. But new cars, according to automotive depreciation data compiled by Consumer Reports and automotive research companies, lose approximately 20% of their value by the time you leave the dealership, then continue to depreciate approximately 15% annually for the first 5 years. So your $48,000 car is worth approximately $38,400 after 1 day, approximately $32,640 after a year, and approximately $23,831 after 3 years when you are still paying for it. You're paying $56,808 for something that's worth approximately $20,000 when it's paid off. Now, let's calculate the opportunity cost. If instead of spending $789 a month on a car payment, you purchased a reliable used vehicle for $12,000 in cash and invested that $789 a month at 10% annual returns for 30 years. According to compound interest math, you would accumulate approximately $1,647,000. Let me repeat that calculation because it's staggering. The difference between buying new cars over your lifetime versus buying reliable used cars and investing the payment difference equals approximately $1,647,000 over 30 years. That's not a typo. This is compound math applied to one of Americans' biggest spending categories. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, transportation accounts for approximately 16% of average household expenses, second only to housing. For a family earning $70,000 annually, that's approximately $11,200 per year in transportation. Now compare satisfaction. According to psychological research on purchase satisfaction published in the Journal of Economic Psychology, new car purchase satisfaction peaks during the first month, drops 50% within 6 months, and reaches baseline within 12 months. After a year, according to survey data, new car owners report identical levels of happiness as used car owners when controlling for reliability and basic features. So, you're paying approximately $1,647,000 in opportunity cost over 30 years for approximately 6 months of satisfaction above the baseline. The math is unequivocal. Financing new vehicles represents one of the most expensive ways to temporarily increase happiness ever invented. Here's the framework for vehicle decisions. Before you buy any car, run these numbers. Number 1. Total amount you will pay, including interest over the term of the loan. Number 2. Expected value of the vehicle when the loan is paid off based on depreciation data. Number 3. The opportunity cost of 30 years of monthly payments if invested at market returns. Number 4. Will this vehicle reliably transport you from point A to point B? If the answer to number 4 is yes, for a vehicle costing a third of the price of your first choice, the math clearly indicates choosing the least expensive option. According to research from wealth accumulation studies published in The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley, analyzing spending patterns of thousands of millionaires, 86% of millionaires purchased used vehicles or kept vehicles for more than 10 years, while only 14% purchased new luxury vehicles regularly. This is not because they couldn't afford expensive cars. It's because they understood the math of opportunity cost. The correlation between vehicle spending restrictions and wealth accumulation is one of the strongest relationships documented in personal finance research. Rapid data collection experiment. I'm curious about the geographic distribution of people who think about spending mathematically rather than emotionally. Where are you watching from? Leave your city and state in the comments below, or your country if you are outside the U.S. This isn't just curiosity. I'm genuinely interested in testing whether people who calculate opportunity costs are geographically concentrated or spread out. Distribute randomly between locations. Do mathematical thinkers concentrate in certain areas, or are they evenly distributed? Let's collect the data and see what patterns emerge. I genuinely want to know if there is a correlation between location and probabilistic thinking about money. Application number 3. Premium subscription services and recurring charges that accumulate over time. According to research from C+R Research and other consumer analysis companies, the average American family maintains approximately 12 paid subscriptions, spending approximately $273 monthly, or approximately $3,276 annually. This includes streaming services, software subscriptions, gym memberships, meal kits, beauty boxes, and countless other recurring charges. Let me show you the mathematical significance of these seemingly small monthly costs. Start with a typical portfolio of subscriptions that many middle-class Americans maintain. 3 streaming services at approximately $15 each equals $45 a month, cloud storage at $10, music streaming at $10, meal kit service at $60 a week for one delivery equals approximately $240 a month, gym membership at $50, premium software subscriptions at $30, and several small subscriptions totaling approximately $50. Total, approximately $435 per month. That's $5,220 annually in recurring charges. Now, calculate the opportunity cost of 30 years. If you eliminated half of those subscriptions, the half that according to consumer usage data you barely use, that's approximately $2,610 freed up annually. Invested at 10% annual return for 30 years, according to compound interest math, this becomes approximately $429,000. Nearly $500,000 in wealth sacrificed for subscriptions you may use occasionally. But here's what makes this particularly mathematically devastating. According to behavioral research on subscription services published in the Journal of Marketing Research, approximately 67% of subscription users significantly overestimate their service usage, a phenomenon called usage illusion. You think you'll use that gym 3 times a week. Usage data shows that you will average approximately 1.2 visits per week after the first month. You think you'll be cooking those meal kit recipes weekly. Data shows that approximately 34% go unused and thrown away, according to food waste studies. You're paying for aspirational versions of yourself that statistically don't exist. Let's look at academies specifically, because the math is particularly clear. According to data from the International Health, Racquet, and Sports Club Association, the average gym membership costs approximately $58 per month. Usage studies show that approximately 63% of gym members attend less than once a week, and approximately 18% never attend after the first month, but continue paying for an average of 4 months before canceling. If you are part of that 63% low usage group, your effective cost per visit is approximately $58 divided by 4 monthly visits, approximately $14.50 per visit. Meanwhile, according to exercise effectiveness research, you could achieve identical fitness results with at-home bodyweight exercises for $0 a month. The opportunity cost of 30 years of that gym is $58 a month if invested at 10%, approximately $120,600. Here's the framework used to evaluate subscriptions. Before subscribing to any recurring charges, calculate 3 metrics. Number 1. Your realistic usage frequency based on your actual current behavior, not aspirational future behavior. Number 2. Cost per use based on realistic usage. Number 3. 30-year opportunity cost of monthly charge invested at market returns. If the cost per use exceeds $5 and you have free or low-cost alternatives, the math suggests skipping the subscription. If the 30-year opportunity cost exceeds $20,000, you should be exceptionally confident that you will maintain high usage for years. According to Federal Reserve research on discretionary spending patterns, households that audit subscriptions quarterly and eliminate services low-use prices save an average of $1,800 annually. Over 30 years, at 10% return, that's approximately $297,000. This is the mathematical cost of inattention to signatures. Application number 4. Lifestyle inflation following income increases, particularly housing upgrades that exceed functional needs. According to Bureau of Economic Analysis research on consumer spending patterns, for every dollar increase in household income, Americans increase spending by approximately 83 cents on average, a phenomenon economists call lifestyle inflation. This is mathematically disastrous because it prevents the building of exponential wealth that comes from investing increases in income rather than spending them. Let me demonstrate with a common scenario. You start your career earning $50,000 annually. You rent an apartment for $1,200 a month, drive a modest used car, and save approximately 10% of your income. 10 years later, his income has increased to $90,000, an 80% increase according to typical professional career progression data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But instead of maintaining their $50,000 lifestyle and investing the additional $40,000, most people upgrade their lifestyle accordingly. They move from their $1,200 apartment to a $2,000 apartment because they can afford it now. Seats. They exchange their used car for a new luxury model. They increase spending on restaurants from $150 a month to $500 a month. According to lifestyle inflation surveys, they typically increase spending by approximately $33,000 of that $40,000 increase, leaving only $7,000 for increased savings, barely better than before the increase. Now, let's calculate the opportunity cost of lifestyle inflation. If you had maintained your $50,000 lifestyle despite earning $90,000, you would have had $40,000 annually available to invest. According to calculations of compound interest at 10% annual returns over the remaining 20 years of a 30-year career, that $40,000 annually becomes approximately $2,291,000. But with lifestyle inflation capturing 33,000 of that 40,000, you only invest the 7,000 annually, which becomes approximately $401,000 over 20 years. Lifestyle inflation has cost you approximately $1,890,000 in wealth over 20 years. That's the mathematical price of indulging in a better apartment and car because your salary has increased. Housing specifically is where lifestyle inflation does the most mathematical damage because it is the biggest expense for most families. According to data from the Federal Housing Finance Agency and census data, the median home price in the United States reached approximately $420,000 in 2023. For someone earning $90,000 annually, conventional mortgage guidance suggests that they can afford a home around $450,000 at current interest rates. But here's what the math actually shows. A $450,000 house with 20% down leaves a mortgage of $360,000. At 7% interest over 30 years, your monthly payment is approximately $2,394. Total paid over 30 years, approximately $861,840. Now compare that to buying a $300,000 house in a slightly less desirable neighborhood, but with equivalent functionality. 20% down leaves a mortgage of $240,000. At 7% over 30 years, monthly payment is approximately $1,596. Total paid, approximately $574,560. The difference, approximately $798 per month. If you invested that monthly difference of $798 at 10% for 30 years, according to compound calculations, you would accumulate approximately $1,663,000. So, the mathematical cost of buying the best house you can afford versus the functional house you actually need is approximately $1,663,000 over 30 years. Here's the framework for assessing lifestyle inflation. When your income increases, before you do any spending changes, calculate this proportion. Take your new income minus your previous spending level. This is your investable surplus. Now, calculate the value of 30 years of investing that surplus annually at 10% return. According to wealth accumulation research published in The Millionaire Next Door, individuals who maintain constant spending despite income growth, investing all raises and bonuses, accumulate approximately 4 times more wealth than colleagues with identical incomes who increase spending in proportion to income. The mathematical difference between these two approaches over a 30-year career typically exceeds $2 million. Application number 5. Impulse shopping and retail therapy, especially for clothing, electronics, and other consumer goods that provide temporary emotional satisfaction but long-term financial cost. According to consumer behavior research published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology and surveys from financial institutions, the average American makes approximately $312 in impulse purchases monthly, approximately $3,744 annually. These are unplanned purchases made for emotional reasons rather than functional needs, according to the research definition. The 30-year opportunity cost of this behavior is staggering. Let me show you the complete mathematical picture. $3,744 annually in impulse purchases represents money that primarily serves emotional regulation rather than meeting real needs, according to behavioral psychology research on shopping behavior. Studies show that approximately 73% of impulse purchases provide satisfaction for less than 24 hours, according to research measuring shopping satisfaction over time. The momentary dopamine hit of buying something new, according to neuroscience research on reward systems, wears off within hours for most consumer goods. Even so, the financial cost is compounded over decades. If you eliminated just half of your impulse purchases, that's $1,872 freed up annually. Invested at 10% for 30 years, according to compound interest math, this becomes approximately $308,000. But completely eliminating impulse purchases would generate approximately $616,000 over 30 years. That's the mathematical cost of using shopping as emotional therapy. Now let's look at specific categories of momentum. According to retail analytics data, clothing accounts for approximately 34% of impulse purchases for many consumers. The average American woman owns approximately 103 items of clothing according to closet organization surveys, yet only wears approximately 20 to 30% regularly according to usage tracking studies. Men average approximately 77 items with similar usage patterns. Each item of clothing that goes unused represents inefficiently allocated capital. Consider a typical pattern. You see a shirt on sale for $40, marked down from $80, and you buy it impulsively because it's 50% cheaper. But according to consumer behavior research, sale prices create urgency that triggers purchases you wouldn't make otherwise. You weren't looking for a shirt. You didn't need a shirt. You bought it because of the perceived business. That $40 shirt, according to closet studies, has approximately a 33% chance of being worn less than 3 times before being forgotten. If used 3 times, its cost per use is approximately $13.33. Meanwhile, $40 invested at 10% for 30 years becomes approximately $698, according to compound calculations. So you exchanged $698 in future wealth for 3 occasions of use. The math clearly suggests this was a bad trade. Impulse electronics purchases are even more financially devastating because the values are higher and obsolescence is faster. According to data from the Consumer Technology Association, Americans have an average of 24 connected devices per family. Usage studies show that approximately 40% of electronics purchases are driven by feature upgrades that provide marginal functional improvement. You buy the latest smartphone for $1,000 when your current phone works properly. According to technology usage surveys, approximately 78% of new smartphone features are not used by the majority of consumers. You're paying for capabilities you'll never use because of what behavioral economists call resource appeal, the psychological attraction to more options even when they don't provide real value. That $1,000 phone upgrade, according to smartphone usage lifecycle data, will be replaced in approximately 2 years when the next model creates new urgency. So you spent $1,000 for 2 years of marginal improvement over your existing phone. The opportunity cost, $1,000 invested at 10% for 30 years, becomes approximately $17,455. Here's the framework for eliminating impulse purchases. Implement a mandatory 72-hour waiting period for any unplanned purchases over $50. According to behavioral research on impulse control, delaying gratification for 72 hours reduces impulse purchases by approximately 64% because the emotional trigger dissipates. Write down the item, the price, and why you want it. After 72 hours, if you still genuinely need it, buy it. Research shows that approximately 71% of gotta-have-it urges disappear within 3 days, according to consumer psychology studies. For purchases under $50, implement a monthly impulse budget. Allow yourself $200 a month for genuine spontaneous desires, but track every impulse purchase. At the end of the month, calculate what percentage provided lasting satisfaction beyond 24 hours. According to studies tracking this behavior, People who implement impulse tracking reduce impulse spending by approximately 47% within 3 months of simply being aware of the pattern. The mathematical result, according to financial behavior research: families that implement impulse buying frameworks save an average of $2,100 annually compared to unrestricted impulse spending. Over 30 years at 10% return, that's approximately $347,000. We examine 5 applications of opportunity cost math to spending decisions. Financing purchases through monthly payments, where you pay exponentially more than the sticker price. New vehicles that depreciate quickly while costing millions in opportunity cost over a lifetime. Subscription services that accumulate invisibly while compounding hundreds of thousands in lost wealth. Lifestyle inflation that captures increases and prevents exponential wealth building. And impulse purchases that provide temporary emotional satisfaction at permanent financial cost. These are not moral judgments about your choices. These are mathematical facts about compound opportunity cost. According to Federal Reserve data on household finances, the average American family carries approximately $8,000 in credit card debt, approximately $31,000 in automobile loans, approximately $273 in monthly subscriptions, and approximately $3,744 in annual impulse purchases. Let's calculate the total 30-year opportunity cost if this average family eliminated just half of these spending patterns. Half of the credit card debt paid off and invested, approximately $209,000 at 10% for 30 years. Half of the car loan payment invested in used cars, approximately $823,000. Half of the subscriptions eliminated and invested, approximately $214,000. Half of the impulse purchases prevented and invested, approximately $308,000. Total opportunity cost of just 50% improvement in these 5 categories, approximately $1,554,000 over 30 years. That's the mathematical cost of average American spending patterns in just those 5 categories. Now let me show you the alternative trajectory. Person A follows typical American spending patterns in these 5 categories throughout his career. Person B applies mathematical thinking, eliminates 75% of these expenses, invests the difference. Both earn identical American median household income of approximately $70,000 annually, according to census data. Both save 10% of gross income in retirement accounts. The only difference: Person B's discretionary spending follows mathematical optimization rather than emotional patterns. According to calculation, with compound interest over 30 years at a 10% annual return, Person A accumulates approximately $1,200,000 in retirement savings from the 10% of income they have saved. Person B accumulates the same $1,200,000 plus the approximately $2,331,000 optimized expenses in the 5 categories we examined, for a total of approximately $3,531,000. Same income, same period. Different mathematical framework for spending decisions. The result? Person B has approximately 2.9 times the wealth of Person A, despite identical earnings. Here's the statistical reality about spending behavior according to research from behavioral economists and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Approximately 93% of Americans know intellectually that spending less and investing more creates wealth, but only approximately 7% consistently apply this knowledge, according to Federal Reserve data on household savings rates and investment behavior. The gap is not knowledge. It is the behavioral discipline to think mathematically about every spending decision, to see the invisible price tag of opportunity cost, to prioritize future wealth over present consumption. James Simons made this transition in his 20s, from emotional spending to mathematical spending. The result over 30 years was not deprivation or misery. It was freedom, financial independence, $28 billion from applying mathematical thinking to markets. But the personal wealth that enabled him to take entrepreneurial risks? This came from applying mathematical thinking to spending. This content is for educational purposes only, based on historical patterns and mathematical principles documented by institutions such as the Federal Reserve, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and peer-reviewed academic research on consumer behavior and investment returns. Nothing in this video constitutes financial advice or investment recommendations. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Markets are inherently unpredictable and involve risk. Individual circumstances vary dramatically and require personalized analysis. The spending decisions and opportunity cost calculations presented represent mathematical frameworks for thinking about trade-offs, not prescriptions for your specific situation. Always consult a qualified financial professional